Okay, and welcome back, students who are taking financial accounting, and we're working on the Chapter 2 problems, Group B. And in this series of videos, we were working on the problem 41B. And in the last video, last couple of videos, get my pen here, um, we had prepared the trial balance, and in the last video, we actually created the income statement and the statement of retained earnings. So the last thing we have to do is just the balance sheet, and then number 3, it says, was it a profitable year for Baker Consulting, why or why not? Right. So let's go down to another slide here, and we're going to create our balance sheet. So again, if you're not getting something, pause, rewatch the video again, go back and watch the theory videos or speak with an instructor, and kind of like follow, what is in the solution. Um, for correct formatting, I'm going to be abbreviating, okay? But for in all intents and purposes, I am going to be kind of like following the correct formatting, right? Meaning like this here, I'm abbreviating Baker Consulting, I'm abbreviating balance sheet, but my date being December 31, 2014 is correct, so my heading date is correct. Now, I personally probably would have written it as of December 31st, 2014. I like writing the words as of because it connotates, these are the balances in the accounts as of that particular date. People who look at balance sheets an awful lot know that the balance sheet is for, these are the balances in those ledger accounts as of that specific date. So when you just put the date there, they know that, those are the balances on those dates. But me personally, I always like to write as of because it just gives it a little bit extra mental tickler to remind somebody to do that. And again, follow the process. Okay, I put in the heading first. I center align it. Then I write the category of accounts: assets, liabilities, stockholders' equity. And I'm going to abbreviate that. And remember, when we think about it, assets equals liabilities plus stockholders' equity. So that's why we put them in that fashion, right? For my assets, I had cash, I had accounts receivable, and I'm abbreviating that, supplies, land and building. And of course, that's going to give me total assets. Okay, a lot of students forget to put in the description total assets. Okay, so for my liability accounts, well, actually, let's just go ahead and put in the numbers. So it's the first number in the column for cash, so it's 9,120. Accounts receivable was 7,370. 650 for supplies. Land was 82,000. And building was 135,000. Okay, we're going to add all of those up, and notice I only used one column, okay? And I'm going to total it in one column, 234, 140. I put a dollar sign because that's the amount of the mathematical calculation, and I double underline it because it's showing the end of the calculation. But notice I only used one column, and the reason why I only used one column is because I don't have to add this 234,000 to anything else, unlike my income statement over here. All right, see, I had if I didn't have revenues up here, okay, if I didn't have revenues, then it would have been perfectly acceptable for me to put the 73,000 right here and only use one column. But because I'm using that 73,000 as part of another calculation, that's why I bumped the column one. I go over one column to the left, put the numbers in, and do the mathematical calculation and put that 73,000 to the right. Back down here with my assets, I'm not adding 234,000 than anything else. So I put everything in one single column. Okay. All right. For liabilities, I have accounts payable and I have notes payable. And since I'm adding those two together, I'm going to have a total liabilities, and I'm abbreviating liability here. So I'm going to put a $sign, and that's 4,100 and 85,000 for the note payable. Underline gives me a mathematical calculation of 89,100. Now, that's the way it's being shown in the solution. Okay, but I don't like this. Okay, for the simple reason, let me finish going through the stockholders' equity, and you're going to see how adding up numbers in one column being a single step format creates confusion in the mind. Okay, because underneath common stockholders' equity, I have common stock, and I have retained earnings, and then I have total stockholders' equity. And again, I'm abbreviating. Okay, and then notice that that was in my total liabilities were indented, and my total stockholders and equity, my stockholders' equity was indented. And the reason why that is because I need to add up my liabilities and my equity in order to get my total liabilities and stockholders' equity. Okay, and now notice that this total is left aligned. Okay, it's left aligned alongside these ledger accounts, which are also left aligned. All right, but the total liability and total stockholders' equity is indented. Now, the solution is showing 120,000 for stockholders' equity and 25,040 for the retained earnings, which is a mathematical calculation to get the total stockholders' equity of 145,040, and then it's drawing another single underline because we're adding 89 and 145, okay, in order to get our total liability and stockholders' equity. So I put a $sign and end up with 234,140. It gives me my double underline. Everything is being done in one column. And notice all of a sudden, if I'm just looking at these numbers, I really have to do an awful lot of thinking about what's being added and what isn't. I mean, I'm adding these two to get this number. Then I'm adding these two to get this number. But then I have to take this number and this number in order to get that number there. Okay, too confusing, all right, for me, right? And when you start doing a lot more complicated financial statements, it's just way too confusing. So use the multi-step format and use more than one column, right? I know that I'm going to want to have, I need to be able to add my total liabilities with my total stockholders equity. So I have 89,100, and then my total stockholders equity is 145,040, and that gets an underline to give me my total liabilities plus stockholders equity. And notice I double underlined it, $sign, double underline, because why? In this column, I know I'm adding up my total liabilities and my equity. Okay, but we have to do mathematical calculations in order to be able to get the 89,100 and the 145,000. That's why I like bumping over one column to the left and putting the 4,100 and the 85,000 one column to the left, draw an underline, and that gives me, and I put my total amount one column to the right, so it's in the proper column. So now when I'm looking at this information, I can look and say, okay, what makes up total liabilities of 89,000? Oh, it's these two numbers here. Okay. And you'll see where this comes in easier into play here, because now for the common stock, I have 120,000 and the retained earnings of 25,040. I draw an underline and put the total in the right-hand column. Okay, so now I'm able to much easier see and interpret the information. When I'm looking in the left-hand column, I can see that these numbers add up. I can see these numbers add up to this. I can see these numbers add up to this. And then I can see these two numbers add up to this right here. Whereas before, with it all in one line, now I have to be really interpreting, well, what exactly gets added to what? And that's where the underlining becomes so important. Because, yeah, if I did it in single step, straight up and down the column, I have to be able to know, that the underlines tell me what I'm supposed to be, adding and, totaling, and when I have an end of a calculation, right? So even though the solution is correct, I don't like it. Use the multi-step as much as possible. And as financial statements become more and more complex, you're going to use many more steps, and it just makes understanding and reading your financial statements that much easier. Okay, so I hope you understood all of that. If not, again, rewatch the video, watch other theory videos, or speak with an instructor. All right, but this is how I go about creating the balance sheet. And the last question as part of the problem was, okay, so we did the balance sheet there, so number 2 was done. And number 3 says, was it a profitable year for Baker? Well, profitable means, did I have a profit or loss? And we get that from the income statement. Okay, so our income statement, let me erase some of this. So on our income statement, we had a profit of $27,720. So yes, in answer to that question, Baker Consulting had a profitable year. Why? Well, the reason why is because their revenues, okay, the revenues, their sales were greater than their expenses. Okay, and that's why they had a net income, a profit of $27,200. If it was the other way around, let me just play, fictitious numbers here. Let's say we had, say, $53,980 in sales and service revenue. Okay, and we still had the same $73,980 in expenses. Well, now we'd be upside down by $20,000. We'd have a loss of $20,000, okay, because our expenses are greater than our revenues. We didn't sell enough in order to pay for those expenses. Right? So that's it for this. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to speak with an instructor. Okay, and I will see you in the next video for problem 42, which seems to be relatively easy and shouldn't take that long. All right, see you then.